Being involved in a car accident is a confusing, devastating time. Unfortunately, the most confusing issue will probably be trying to navigate your insurance policy. Know your rights. If you've been involved in a serious car accident, call Catania. We put families first.
And thank you. It's 8:18. For more than 50 years, they remain untouched. Nameless grave markers. Could these 32 unmarked graves hold the truth behind violent beatings of young boys? A new book, The Boys of the Dark, uncovers what the author calls years of assault, rape, possibly even murder at the Florida School for Boys in Marianna. Robert Straley is one of the authors of that book, and he is with us this morning, and he was actually at the school. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
I got to tell you, I told you this. I started reading the book, and some of the accounting of this is so upsetting that I would have to put the book down, walk away from it, but I kept having to go back and read more of it because it's an incredible accounting of what happened to you all.
Well, some of the men that called me were ex-Marines, ex-Army. They said they would rather go back to Vietnam than to go down at the White House.
The White House is the place at the school,
the punishment room,
where the beatings took place.
You know, they were very severe. Dr. Eugene Bird, a psychiatrist out of Miami, who had worked at the Florida School for Boys, testified before the Senate about the beatings which he had witnessed, and he said they are delivered by a grown man over the head with full force and are very, very hard.
You were one of those instrumental in pulling all of these people together. You've got you and the investigation that ensued, and then following with this book with Rob and Gabby Fisher and Michael McCarthy and you. This is something you had not talked about in your life for a very long time, and I know there were circumstances that brought it back to light, but that seems to be the thing. A lot of these people repressed these memories, didn't they?
I'd say 90% of the men that I talked to, and I talked to a good 150 after the story broke and went nationwide. I got call after call after call, and I would start at 9 o'clock in the morning and sometimes go to midnight. But nobody hardly had told anybody. I didn't tell my wife of 15 years. And I thought surely I had, but she said, "No, you never told me that." Wow. And I realized that I hadn't really told anyone.
There was an FDLE investigation. The conclusion was that there was no evidence that the school or the staff contributed to the deaths of those 31 who were buried at the school. What do you make of that?
Well, I tell you what, there are 81 deaths there. So where's the other 50 kids? Okay? They don't know whether there's anybody buried there that was killed by somebody because they never dug up the graveyard. They did no ground-penetrating radar, no cadaver dogs. They wrote it off on paper, even though they had to admit that the records were faulty. The land had been farmed over. The graveyard had been farmed over. They had placed the crosses back into where they thought they might be, you know. And their investigation was just to the letter of the law. They explained it away on paper.
We're gonna have to go. I want to ask you a question. I want to assume that nothing like this could ever happen again. But what do you want people to take away from this?
The fact that no matter how far back abuse occurs, it can still be prosecuted. And also the fact that covering up stuff like this is just not going to work. This just gives a message to the perpetrators that it's all right to beat these boys or brutalize children. The state will cover it up for you. We will protect you.
We need to tell everybody Mr. Straley is going to be signing copies of the Boys of the Dark at the Barnes & Noble in Clearwater tomorrow, and we've got details online at myfoxtampabay.com. Just look under the Good Day section. Get this book, read it. It is quite something. Mr. Straley, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. And we're back after the break.